Jeremiah 29 says, "I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future."
In this passage, the Hebrew word for future means backwards, afterwards, or after part, quite different from the interpretation we have for future in the West. The best analogy we have for this meaning of future is a man rowing a boat. When the rowboat is moving forward, the man sees where he has been and the future is towards his back. This shows us that while we are moving forward, we're facing the past and all the people and places we've come from. So your family's future is not independent of history. Your history influences what is and what will be.
If you look at your family history, you may have questions about things that you want to retain and blend into your family, or change, or maybe just completely remove from the picture.
Asking these questions can be particularly difficult or even painful. We encourage you to talk them through gently and with compassion. Extend grace to each other. As a couple, if you come from diverse cultural and religious backgrounds, you may find that this process is particularly complex as you compare reality with family expectations.
A word of advice: you'll never create a perfect family. You only have to look at the Bible to see that dysfunctional families seem to be everywhere.
To mention a few, the first family, Adam and Eve, one of their sons murdered the other.
What about Noah? Well, he had a drinking problem.
And Abraham, he was considered a good role model on the whole, and he offered his wife to another man twice.
Rebecca schemed with her son to deceive her husband.
A woman named Tamar ended up pregnant by her father-in-law after a long history of family dysfunction.
And then there's Joseph and Mary. They lost Jesus and they didn't even look for him for 3 whole days.
But rather than discouraging me, these examples show us that God can use every story to teach about redemption, reconciliation, and ultimately about love. They give us hope. This family thing is hard, and I think God has deliberately not given us a perfect picture to live up to.
Extended families are not always easy or simple. For some of us, extended families can be associated with heartache, hurt, abuse, misunderstanding, or perhaps unforgiveness. However, your extended family is part of your history. God may be calling you out of this history to start a new family legacy with your family.
He may also be calling you to do your part in bringing restoration and healing to the broken relationships in your family. Remember that sometimes the other person is not ready to heal and forgive, and you can only do your side of the process and bring the rest of the relationship before God in prayer. Trust that God will hold your hand through it all and that healing and wholeness are His desire for you.
Yeah, it's healthy to discuss expectations around time spent with extended family, but as a couple, you are the primary relationship, and between the two of you, decisions need to be made that honour, respect and support what you value as a family. The boundaries may shift and move as you walk through those early stages of parenthood, and you need to figure out what feels right for you, but the values and the principles are often more concrete than that.
This is also true for major events like Christmas and birthdays, or how you'll celebrate milestones. Sometimes we don't realise how important something is that's always been done until we go to do it again and someone changes the rules. In the Apply section of your workbook, you're encouraged to open up a discussion about this and take time as a couple to read through the beginning 11 verses of Philippians chapter 2. It'll help you develop unity as you create new ways for your family.
If the children you're preparing to parent are not your own, there are other extended family factors that you need to consider. For example, you may have adopted a child under an open adoption agreement, which means there's biological parents or siblings that they can still interact with. How are you going to manage this? What are the support structures that you will have set up to help navigate those relationships?
Or maybe, like us, you're heading into a fostering arrangement, and the birth parents or other relatives will have scheduled visits. Birth parents or relatives may come from a different cultural background and could well have a different value system. There may be differences in opinions and priorities in many areas such as nutrition, education or discipline.
How do you blend the two worlds together and work out where boundaries need to be and where grace needs to be applied?
Children will be impacted by visits with their relatives, and each time you'll need to help them as they adjust back into your family.
As adoptive or foster parents, you need to have open and honest discussions around these things, considering also what it might mean for you to honour and respect your child's culture and their family heritage.
Finally, let's take a moment to talk about grandparents. In many families, these guys get a great deal. Grandparents can spend quality time with children without having the parenting hat on. They enjoy the cuddles, playtime and curious chats, but have the luxury of handing children back. They have an important role to support parents in their family values, but from my experience they can also have different boundaries, which children easily adapt to.
Some grandparents who are more involved day to day may engage in a more intentional manner with boundaries and instructions, and in this case it's wise to have an open conversation about what will these be between you as the parents and them as the grandparents. But remember that you are the parents and they know you better than almost anyone in the world. While you won't always agree with everything they say or everything they expect you to do, they have a unique window into your life and therefore into the life of your child.
If grandparents won't be in the immediate picture for whatever reason, I encourage you to pray over this.
Perhaps there are older couples who you could approach who would be willing to support you here by stepping into that grandparenting role. Or through technology, you can find creative ways to interact with those that are living far away. For example, you could video call grandparents at mealtime or perhaps when the baby is having tummy time on the ground.
As you go through this process, there is no perfect family picture that God has provided. We simply remember that He is weaving together all of history to share His story, and that your family, while facing the past, walks into all He has for your future.